Hello everyone and welcome to this video on GDPR. My name is Frédéric Vonnin and I'm the partner in charge of this topic at PwC Luxembourg. The data protection landscape is changing. Do you know what GDPR means? GDPR stands for the General Data Protection Regulation. It will replace the current Data Protection Directive and will be applicable in all EU member states as of the 25th of May 2018. GDPR is about personal data of EU residents and about the organizations that process this data, whether they are inside of the EU or outside of it. But what is personal data? Personal data is the data related to clients, employees and suppliers that can be used to identify data subjects. Personal data can be public or kept in private. There are some obvious examples of personal data, such as registration data, your name, your date of birth, your social security number. Also, your username and password pairs, your race, religion, biometrics, bank account numbers, etc. Some less obvious personal data include browsing or computer usage profile, bank transactions, credit history and risk profile, location at a certain time, and so on. GDPR requires that all organizations taking part in processing personal data implement the appropriate technical and organizational measures to ensure that personal data is protected and the data subject rights are respected. GDPR focuses on the flows of personal data in the context of a business exchange, on the purpose and scope of this processing, on the criticality and security of the IT systems under which the personal data is exchanged, and on how those flows of personal data are protected. This is particularly important when outsourcing part of your IT management or when you're using the cloud, for example. You should know that GDPR is not domain-specific. It will affect all business sectors, including financial and the healthcare sectors. GDPR is putting the responsibility to verify compliance in the hands of national data protection authorities. These authorities can impose significant fines to entities that are found to be not compliant. Those fines can reach up to 4% of their global annual turnover. So now that you're aware of it, are you ready for GDPR? Can you demonstrate that you're already compliant? The greatest challenges brought by GDPR are the risk-based approach to compliance and how to demonstrate compliance. GDPR encourages protecting personal data, but it doesn't explain how to become compliant. It doesn't insist on absolute measures to be taken in all circumstances, but rather encourage a risk-based approach to data protection. What does this mean? Let me give you an example. Imagine you're managing an enterprise website, which requires the users to input their credentials to log in. Those credentials are linked to the user's name and surname, and they constitute personal data. These credentials are also stored and managed on the server. GDPR doesn't tell you that you must absolutely use a certain encryption standard to protect the credentials on the server. Rather, it tells you to look at the risks of the credentials being leaked, the impact on the data subjects if such leaks occur, and the cost of protecting the data. You could protect those credentials in several ways, some of them being more costly than others. The key point is to be able to justify, should the breach happen, that the protection mechanisms you had chosen were good enough with respect to the estimated risk. The point is very important and obliges entities that process personal data to consider what are the risks to the data assets, what processes and controls they can put in place to mitigate those risks, and what are the appropriateness of these decisions. Demonstrating compliance is another new challenge, and it's linked to having accountability measures in place to be able to demonstrate to clients and to data protection authorities that the measures taken were in line with the risks. At PwC, we can help you understand where you're at with respect to the GDPR requirements. We can help you put in place the organization and mechanism to protect personal data and help you design a data protection strategy that is future-proof. Thanks for watching.